Everybody, welcome to The Rundown with Ramon. I'm Ramon Ray. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com. We're talking to Derral, and I should have asked how to pronounce his last name. Is it Eves, Derral?
It is Eves, yeah.
I got it right. We're talking to Derral Eves with The Chosen and so much more. But Derral, I hope you're well and doing okay, you and your family today. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. I mean, any day that I wake up and still is just kind of cranking along, it's a good day, right? So
absolutely, it is a good day. So Derral, listen, you're part of a huge production called The Chosen, which is a multi-series project TV show. You'll correct me all the details, called The Chosen, which my family has watched many times. Let's start just right there. Unpack what is The Chosen and what's your involvement in it, and then we'll go backwards a bit.
yeah, so The Chosen's a multi-season show about the people that found Jesus in the first century and his message that was impacted by him. And believe it or not, a lot of people think that The Chosen is all about Jesus, but it's really about the people that he called. And a very disruptive time. There's a lot of people stuck in their theology and the way that they do things. And he came and really disrupted the whole nation, but also the world. And what I love about the show is it shows real world, people that struggle and their transformations once they turn their hearts to Jesus.
Yeah, and absolutely was very good as a Christian myself. It was personally beneficial to me, and I'm sure for those who are not, they will enjoy it for the theatrical components if they wish only for that as well. Derral, I think The Chosen was funded, and again, you can give me the details in a minute. The largest or one of the largest crowdfunding campaigns. When we watch it, there was some fundraising at the beginning. It costs money to produce this. Can you unpack and give us a summary of how money works, how money flows, who pays what, and just that lesson learned of that? Because many people, we just take our popcorn and watch HBO. We don't think about it.
Enjoy it right there. Yeah.
Right. Tell us how this was done.
Yeah. So quite a few years ago, over 6 years ago, I watched a short film that this creator made for his church, and it really just spoke to me. It was done really well. I could tell it was low budget. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, what would this guy do if he had a big budget? Like what could he create? And ultimately, the next week I met with him, and it was Dallas Jenkins. And that show that really impacted my life and my soul was The Shepherd. And it was basically it showed the nativity of Jesus Christ, but it's through the perspective and eyes of the shepherds. And so really spoke to me. And I knew that he was super creative, super engaging. And I just knew that there was something bigger. And so as we had a conversation, come to find out, believe it or not, that he had these ideas about a TV show about Jesus and those that followed him, similar to what The Shepherd was. It's like the kind of a perspective of other people, how they're impacted by Jesus's lives. And I was all in. I was like, tell me more, and he started to talk about how he's pitched this idea for years and no one would actually fund him. No one would actually get behind the project. Thought, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but you know what? Jesus has been done so many times. Just don't even try.
Nobody's going to watch it. There's no interest in it. Why would people do it? Of course not.
Yeah. And for me, it was a couple big things. And so, I knew it was going to be done in a fresh way, because I think a lot of the Jesus projects were like sanitized, and he wanted to do raw, real, human emotion, the authenticity. And what was happening in first century at the time of Jesus is really, really disruptive. It's just like a lot going on, a lot of hatred, a lot of bigotry, a lot of racism, a lot of frustration. And to see the transformation that Jesus was able to not only do a nation, but a group of people that really changed their hearts. It's very relevant to the world that we live in today. And so that's kind of how it all started. And I called my wife up. I said, look, I totally believe in the vision of this creator. And I've been building audiences online for, pretty much my whole career. And I says, I really like this, really love what it's all about. And, we're going to go into business today with this guy, make a TV show about Jesus. And she's like, oh, that's fine, dear. That's great. And she's just, I come up with all these ideas that I do. And so
she knows her man.
Yeah. And for me, I truly do believe it was kind of colliding two worlds. I think it was like my love for Jesus and my love for developing audiences and the challenges that go with that. And ultimately I was able to come together and really do more. It felt more like a ministry, like literally extending the kingdom. But I was also, trying to figure out the things of the world and business, and try to figure out how things would actually happen. So pitched Dallas on the idea of coming together. He loved it. We became partners. And then it was like, okay, how are we going to raise the money?
Right.
And this is where
all those sheep and goats and people and staffs and tents, somebody has to pay for it.
Yeah, that's right. So this is where I think it all started. So the beginning was, he had a great idea. And we honed in, and we actually locked ourselves in an Airbnb for a couple days and tried to figure out what our brand was, what our brand would become. And then two, the most important aspect was we needed to solidify our message of the why. Why are we doing this? And his vision and mission and the whole goal behind what we were trying to accomplish. And believe it or not, this was a very detailed process. And we tried to explain what the chosen brand is and what it means. And then it would deal with not only the business side, but also the project. And we were able to go through that. And we immediately made a video kind of stating our why and our intentions and our purpose. And that was the kind of the foundational elements that were needed. And then basically we were going to do it. And we wanted to share the vision of what we were trying to tackle and the why. And before you know it, we actually had a lot of people coming in and wanted to contribute and wanted to get behind the project. And so what we decided to do is do a reggae, which was be able to take public money. And this is different than a Kickstarter. This is where they can come on, and as we succeed, they succeed. They actually become our partners. And ultimately, we use that short film that really spoke to me. And he showed him that, hey, here's a pilot. This is what it could look like. This is kind of like the genesis of The Chosen. And we want to do so much more with bigger budgets and really do this right. And before you know it, and Raymond, like, this is what just blows me away. It was like the content was started to speak into people, and they started to share. And as they would share, more people became involved. And before you know it, we broke the all-time crowdfunding record in film and television. And at that time, we did it with no audience. Like, no one, like, we didn't have a huge following before. It started with one person, and one became two became four became eight became 16 became 32. And we just got it up where people were really understood clearly what our vision is and what it was at that time and what we wanted to create. And so we broke that record. And then that's when Dallas was able to go to work and start on the first season of the show. We actually had all the scripts done. It was just like, okay, well, let's move into production and let's kind of get everything all set up. And so for us, it literally took a vision of what content could look like. And I would argue to say that a lot of people just felt called to just get behind it, to become our partners. And they didn't even know what it was going to look like. And ultimately that was a lot of trust. And so as that money came in, we wanted to make sure that this content, number one, glorifies God and his ministry here on earth. And secondarily, really share an authentic moment of what people can really identify with, people that struggle, and how powerful his message really is.
That is incredible. And I think, let me know if you agree with this, Derral. I think that one lesson this shows is, I think of Tyler Perry, that's an niche media for Black audiences primarily. I think of any other niche media. My point being is that there's riches in niches. Like, people think you have to serve everybody, but no, there's a few million Christians somewhere around the world. And not that everybody who's a Christian only watched it, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing that you went niche all in. And it spread amongst a certain community, people who like blue socks, make stuff
Yeah.
for them. Is that any make sense what I'm trying to
Well,
align there?
because like this is kind of my jam when it comes to
Please.
audience development, and it's where I'm at. So yes, I would agree with you 100% that the audience that we were focusing in on to raise the money that was needed for season one of The Chosen was in that niche. But the moment that we broke the all-time crowdfunding record, the moment that Dallas created season one of The Chosen, is the moment that in my head I wake up every day and I want 1 billion people to see it.
I love it.
And I think that's the difference, because like, yes, yeah, we'll go in segments, but ultimately at the end of the day, we really care about getting it in front of people, and we believe that the content is going to have people self-reflect. They're going to self-identify. Oh, I'm kind of like him, or I'm like that scenario of I've experienced this as well. And it's telling people stories around Jesus and seeing how, through the lens of how Jesus would approach things, and why there was so much emphasis in certain areas in the Bible, and what was the plausible backstory leading up to that. And so for me, Raymond, the riches of the niches, but like for us, that was stage one. And ultimately we want people to be impacted by it. It's like I get a lot of different emails and texts and DMs, because I'm a part of the project, co-founder of The Chosen, but also the executive producer. And when I hear people that did not believe in a God, total atheist, come to watch the show and just enjoy it, it as entertainment,
as a show.
And then started to be curious about this man named Jesus, wanted to know about this Jesus of Nazareth, right? And so they start digging deep into it, and it starts speaking to them. And when it speaks to them, the Holy Spirit's like touching their heart to go deeper, and to see that, that it gets them into the Bible, it gets them on their knees, it gets them into church. That is a win for me. And for me, I can't imagine, my life without this. It's like really looking at it. It's a very impactful tool that really touches people to the heart, and it tells authentic story. And they see these atheists that are coming in, watching the show and being baptized. I mean, come on. Like that right alone is the payday. And I think if we only focused in on, hey, this is a Bible show that's cool, and it's only for Christians, I think we'd miss out on the true potential and the opportunity to really impact the world. And for me, I want it to go more into that segment of the market, more mainstream, just so they can see how powerful and how his message does impact people's lives. Because if you really look at first century and today, there's a lot of similarities going on. There's a lot of problems that we're facing that are very, very similar. And what we need is the word that he spoke 2,000 years ago, really to transform people's hearts and their minds and their lives.
I love this. And thank you for setting the record straight on that perspective. So the initial kernel, fine, to the people, but it's much broader than that. And I think, what also does the role, Derral, of it being a great production have, that since the money was able to be raised and make it first class, is there anything in there? Because, anybody 100%. Can do a lot of things with their camera or cell phone. We do our best, but this is first rate. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, when I saw that short film that Dallas made, I just knew that he just drew me into the story within, minutes. It was just like in minutes, I just knew it was low budget, but he was a really, really powerful storyteller. And for us, it was always having enough budget so that he could tell the stories in the way that he imagines it, right? It's like, really, when you give him a little bit of a budget, he can go a long ways. And if you really look at the type of production that we're doing, it'd be so much cheaper if it was today's day. It's like we have to really recreate first century. Like, you just can't just go out and shop on Amazon for first century. You just can't. We needed a boat. We had to build 2 boats. It was just like, that's the kind of thing that you had to do, because it's not really accessible to have all the props and stuff, and so it becomes very, very costly. I would say, just to the level of let me take a step back. Let me kind of take a step back. We get the ability to tell stories of Jesus, and that's the best content in the world. And for me, from my perspective, right? And when you bring it into a lens of where someone that's creative, like our writers in Dallas, and they're able to see what would be life like back then, but it's like totally done in a way where it's human, it's humanized, has problems and issues, and not everything's going to be just okay, this will be perfect, everything's going to be great, no, it's just more raw and gritty and real. And when you can package that in a way, I think it actually speaks to people. And just like the shepherd spoke to me, the chosen right now is speaking to so many different people in so many different ways. And to do it with an ensemble cast, I mean, we have 18 cast members that are literally all a part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like their trials are reflected to trials that people face today. And I think that's what really speaks to people, and it's their story. And what I found, and Dallas said this from the beginning, he goes, we got to be just raw, we got to be real, we got to be gritty. But as the chosen gets out and people starts watching it, we're actually giving these characters justice because we can really take time to tell their story. What you can't necessarily do in a movie, we can actually take a couple seasons, 2 or 3 seasons, and really have a beautiful moment where you understand the complications and the issues of a character, and it can literally lead to thoughts and feelings of when something happens, people will rejoice, or people will cry, or people will laugh, or people will engage even deeper. And so for me, I've worked with a lot of content creators over the course of my career on YouTube and on television. And I can tell you that Dallas and our writers, Ryan Swanson and Tyler Thompson, are just amazing storytellers, and they know their part. They know how to engage, and it makes the content so that we can basically look at, scenes of the Bible and really bring them to life in a way that gives people something to talk about. And I think any great content gives people conversations that they can have. And that brings people back into the show to watch and to be impacted and to share with others. So it's like the ultimate feedback loop, which is great. So
I love it. It reminds me a little bit. My wife recently started a few months ago watching K-dramas, and she was surprised. I think, again, you're the production expert here, but like American shows don't have like 50 episodes, 51 series. But to your point with that, with the story, she loves it. Millions love it. It can go on as long as needed. It's life.
Those Koreans know how to make some amazing content. You got K-pop, you got K-dramas, you got all this stuff from there. But what I noticed about K-dramas is I believe that their type of content they treat it more like online video. They always leave that little cliffhanger right at the end. It gets you to always want to binge even deeper. I get sucked into all those too, man. It's just it's just crazy. So
no, for sure. This has been so good, Derral, and I want to touch on 2 other things. But again, as much time as you have, we can pause and go on tomorrow as well. And 4 hours more we can go. Just teasing. But talk about 2 creators who also, again, I'm not new to this, but you're the expert here. I understand I create something, goes on YouTube, and monetize in a variety of ways. What about, can you give us the 101 if I want to get it on Amazon or other platforms? I want to get it on TV networks. Can you just give me the layperson's view, how that industry works? Can I just pay my way there? Does somebody have to say, we'll pick you? What happens? I know you guys had an app, you guys had platforms. Help us understand for anybody who wants to do that.
The biggest challenge that Dallas actually had when he was pitching the show and nobody would pick it up is generally you get someone to not only fund it, but to do the distribution. So it's just like, it could be like NBC says, hey, we like your idea. Let me go ahead and put the money down so you can create it. And then 2, we'll distribute it so people can see it. And so that's generally the relationship that you have. And so for us, out of the gate, it was very, very difficult to not only get people to fund it, but also the distribution. And especially when we started out, it's like nobody knew about the show. Like that was like when I would wake up and I'm like, man, there's no one that actually understands that we actually made a TV show about Jesus, except for the people that contributed and a few people on Facebook and a few people on YouTube. And for us, it's like, how do we get it in front of more people? And being an independent, we can do different things. And so we looked at every opportunity to get people to watch. Like, believe it or not, the very first thing that we did was from my digital mind point of view was kind of backwards, but it was like super necessary. We went on DVD. like that's an easy way we can share DVD. People
Smart.
might not
Okay.
have DVD players, but they can put in their game console. But we went on DVD, and we are one of the top selling DVDs in the world. It's just like when you really break it down, in different areas, like that was our first way to distribute. And then the app was the next way to distribute. And then getting into, program or companies like Peacock and Amazon and Netflix, we can have those deals. But ultimately, if you're creating content, it's like there's a content creator, the production company, and then someone that distributes it. For me, though, I can tell you that my projects, I like to do them around social media, and I love YouTube. I love YouTube in so many different ways, because YouTube can go find that audience for you, and it can help you in so many different aspects. And so, definitely YouTube's been a part of our strategy of really connecting and identifying who our audience is, and going from there. But if you have a project you're looking to get out there, it's what's the idea, and then where's the most logical place to actually just talk to them and go from there. But there's definitely opportunities. Like, platforms are always looking for the next big thing, the next project. But you're in a pretty big heat of people competing for that money for their show to get made. So
I love it. I love it. And a third question to ask you, Derral, is that can you talk about then to regular business people? Let's get some advice from Derral. I'm a car dealer in Virginia, and I want to get on YouTube, Facebook, other platforms, or I'm a lawyer. Just give us a 101 of what you've learned about content, about making an impact, about video creation. What have you said for the past few years over and over again? Can you share that with us right now, too?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is there's an audience for everyone out there. There's people that are looking very specifically. You brought up 2 examples, and I'll give you 2 real life examples. So I actually had a gentleman reach out to me, and he had a law firm. He still has a law firm, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get my message out." And so he paid a lot of money for my time.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to break down just kind of what his value proposition is, like who he would be targeting and his value proposition. Well, he had this amazing story. He's an immigration attorney, has this amazing story about how much difficult and issue that he had having his wife get her green card, and let alone citizenship in the United States. And that became his passion of helping like-minded people out there that's struggling to come into the United States the right way, right? Going through the right type of procedures. And so he went on a mission to start, an attorney firm that would work 100% with immigration. So as we were going in, I'm like, man, let's really look at your strategy and really see how it equates. And so the first thing we did is like, who are these people? And then give me some context of like people that are just asking you very specific questions, and let's kind of go over all their issues that they face. And so we started making a list of everything that they face, and so on and so forth. And ultimately that is content that you can put out there, because as people are looking for that content, they're Googling it or going on YouTube. And if you have a video about it, you become that expert. You become someone that actually connects with them. Now, this gentleman went on, I have a 12-week mentorship program, and he went into that, and it transformed his life, because ultimately he understood what good content was and where that needed to be. And he basically built up his law firm just from YouTube, and just from one strategy of going on and doing those videos like we talked about before, but doing live streams where he answers questions live. He went and made an 8-figure business out of it, and it was all from YouTube. And I mean, that's a lot of zeros when you really break it down. But what was really, really cool more than anything else was he was in New York, going down the road during Times Square. You know how Times Square is really chaotic. And this white van literally comes off and goes over the barrier and comes across on the other side and cuts him off. And he's like, I'm going to get abducted, and something's going on here. And it was 2 fans that saw him on the road and wanted to say hi. It was just like, And here he is, helping people all around the United States. And, they just saw him and like, that's him. And so they just went over. I mean, it was like broke all the laws and everything, but it was pretty cool to see. But at the end of the day, that's something that any business can do. Now, let me talk about an auto dealership. Auto dealership's fun. You can do feature products of cars or tips from there. I actually had a student that I mentored. He was a salesman at a dealership, and he came on. I said, tell me what you're doing. He's like, I'm just doing tips to help people really know what salespeople are going after. And I want it to be the honest side of it. I want to show them all the things that they could ding you on that you don't need to get. And so I want to be the ethical one here. And I'm like, man, that's great. And so anyway, he created a channel and was getting going. His name's the Chevy Dude. He talks all about all Chevy products. And I asked him, like, tell me, like, what do you really want to do? And he's like, I want my own dealership. And YouTube brought in so much money that he put his notice in with the company that he was selling. I mean, he was making a lot of money, and he would just sell Corvettes. Like, he was a Corvette guy, loved Corvettes. He had backlog of customers and stuff like that, but he has his own shop. And what's been great is YouTube's been able to come in and help promote his shop. His brick and mortar, that it not only built one facility, he now has like a detail shop and a few other things that go from there. And it was all because he's giving tips and helping people on YouTube of how to navigate buying. And so when they're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy a car, well, I'm going to buy it from the Chevy Dude. That's where it's at. And so, it's been great to see YouTube as people really see the opportunity. Let me tell you the biggest one. This is actually one of my favorite case studies of all time. Had a gentleman approach me a year ago. It's well over a year ago. Did a presentation, and he says, I want to go all in on YouTube. Here's the check. He like literally wrote me a check out and had it in his hands. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I says, look, I go, you gotta be a good student. He goes, I promise I'll be your best student ever. And anyway, he comes in, and this guy, I knew him. He gets on stage, and he had a very solid business and was able to do so much. And he's like, I just need YouTube. Like I want to have this be a part of my strategy. So we sat down, worked with him and his team, and I started to mentor him in my 12-week. And what was interesting was he got ready to release his first video on YouTube. And I says, well, why aren't you monetized? And he goes, well, because, people, would be putting ads on my videos. I'm like, well, YouTube will pay you money. Like, YouTube will share in the revenue. Like, let's turn that on. So he turns it on, and he's like, dude, like, we made $148 last month. By what? We didn't even upload a video. And then the next month was like $300 or whatever. So they get ready to upload their first video. And basically he made $5,000 that month. And it was just like the first video that we actually created with it. The next month it was 20. And the month after that was $46,000. And I actually have him coming to a conference I put on. It's called Vid Summit. Mm-hmm. He made 8 figures part-time by uploading YouTube videos.
And what's the 2 or 3 things they're doing right? Anybody can upload video.
Literally,
good quality SEO. What's the?
Yeah, he. There's 2 things that happen. Number one, his content is powerful. He's actually talks about business based on biblical principles. Mm-hmm. And I says, okay, that's great, right? And he really starts to deep dive into helping people to have a business mindset that's biblically based. Love it, and so on. Well. When he started uploading videos, YouTube paid him over $250,000 for just uploading videos. So that's $250,000. And then 2, his book sales went up 4,802%. That's a huge increase, right? And then he had a continuity program on top of it that was like 5-6x. And so when that actually happens, and I think it was like some of the programs he introduced a new one was even like 600% higher, but it was just like so much crazy that YouTube would find his audience. Mm-hmm. And then he actually had offers and funnels all set up. And so two big things happen here. Number one, when I watched his first video, I'm like, oh man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And he goes, well, talk to me. I says, well, I go, and his name's Myron Golden. I says, Myron, when I see you on stage.
Wait a minute. You can't just say Myron Golden's name passively like that. Like Myron Golden is a big deal.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. But anyways,
Go ahead.
I go, Myron, the person I see on stage is not the person I just watched in the YouTube video. Like, you're magnetic over here. I can't even watch 2 minutes of your video. And he goes, okay. He goes, well, what do I do? I says, well, bring a live audience in. If you need to go Zoom, just put that, if you need it, you need facial reactions, because your genius is you react to the crowd. And I says, I need that in the video.
He's a performer, entertainer.
Yeah. He made that one change, and it was like game over. It was like you had it. He had a video series. It was like well over 40 minutes long, per video. I just take off and just crush it. And so at the end of the day, I just got off the phone with him just before this podcast, and we're trying to figure out the title. And he's like, man, he goes, if there's one thing I did right, it's like hiring you to help me with YouTube, because I've never been blessed so much. It's just been, in a way, and it's true, because YouTube knows who your audience is. And that's what I told him. The second advice, I said, first, we need the real Myron. The second was, can't you use your email list? You can't use your Facebook page. You can't use your social media. YouTube needs to figure out who your audience is. And I can promise you, it's not going to be the same audience. And that was the conversation, is like, it isn't even remotely the same audience that he had before. It's a lot greater of an audience, that things that YouTube knew about his viewer that Myron didn't, and his team. So, I mean, that's kind of where that's at. So
I love, by the way, is your 12-week program open now? Can people go to some website, or can people look it up, or how does that work?
You can apply at channeljumpstart.com. Okay. So when I went channeljumpstart.com. Okay. When I went full-time with The Chosen, I'm like, hey, how do I take all my consulting and really still impact the world? And so we just made this mentoring program. I put a couple hours a week in, really doing in a group setting, helping people really understand YouTube the way that that will help them succeed. So
I love it. Going back to The Chosen, and again, I want to respect your time. I have a lot more time, but the more time I can give you back, the more you'll come back if he interviewed again. Derral, what can we do, anyone do, to help The Chosen make a bigger impact? And thank you for the business tips. These are amazing, but I'll end on that. The Chosen, what do you want our viewers to do? What can we do to make a bigger impact?
So our main principle with The Chosen has always been around user-generated content. We love user-generated content. We love it when people take time and energy and effort in their life to talk about what they're into. And so the biggest impact that we've noticed over the course of building The Chosen is taking a segment out of the show and sharing people why that's powerful. And we want you to do that. We encourage you to do that. And so don't do the whole episode, because I mean, there's some copyright issues, right? But you can
just a little bit.
You can take a sliver out. It could be an image. It could be a screenshot. It could be whatever. It could be you with, a picture with your big old TV in the background, but share what really speaks to you, and use social media to do that. Tag out people that either are like-minded or need to hear that message. And we just know that when people really just share, that is really going to get people curious, because sometimes it might take 7 or 8 or 9 different times. One of my favorite stories is this is like by far one of my favorites. So when we started creating the show, I was telling Dallas that the generation that I want to impact is Gen Z. Like I'm obsessed with Gen Z. My kids are Gen Z. I believe that, if they can just understand who God is, yeah, they'll get behind it. They'll become his hands and his army and come out and do amazing things. But they just need to really identify who they are and that relationship with God. And so I've been always into this. And what's been really interesting is you always think that mom's going to talk to kids or grandpas or grandmas or say, hey, you got to watch The Chosen. And what's happening is we get both that happening, but a lot of people are experiencing for themselves and saying, this is so amazing. This is just amazing. It's just, this speaks to me, and they're sharing it at rates that we've never seen. I was actually over in Spain speaking as a keynote at a youth conference. There was like 4,000 youth. They were coming together. They're all Gen Z, right? And we showed a clip of the show, and the whole conference is around that one clip of where that lady, to be healed, just touched the hem of Jesus, right? And because of her faith, that she was healed. And what's been beautiful from that was the people that were there. A lot of them were their parents are not even religious, and they just are feeling this movement. They feel like there's something bigger, there's something better, and they're having a faith to start developing the relationship with Jesus. And like hearing them watching the show and trying to get their parents to watch the show, and trying to get others, like they're really trying to have people, just like Nathaniel is like, hey, come and see what this is all about. Just like that's happening right now. That's happening right now. And I love it. I love it that it's happening multi-generational. It's just speaking to people. But what it can help us in every regard is just share the moments of the why, and then two, what it really says. Because I think a lot of people, we get a lot of hate where it's like, you're not following exactly what the Bible is, and we're like, number one, you got to read your Bible. Most people say that's not in the Bible. We show where it's in the Bible. So that's the first thing. But I think it's just like, what led up to those moments. Yeah, we're taking some creative liberty, and Dallas and the writers do a great job at that. But it gives context of the why. Like the feeding of the 5,000, like I never gave it thought until Dallas is like, Jesus actually caused their hunger. Yes. He caused that to happen. I'm like, I never even thought about it.
He made him skip lunch.
I thought it was like free lunch. It's like buffet, but no, it was like they're getting ready to faint, and Jesus made them, and Jesus knew it. And that's just a beautiful moment that we were able to showcase. And so for us, it's just like what resonates with you, and share those moments. And another big thing is, binge watching together, bring people over, invite them to your house, have conversations. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful for the ministry side of the kingdom, for sure.
I love it. Derral, anything I didn't ask you, anything you want to add before we end? I want to respect your time, but anything you wanted to add that I didn't touch on?
Yeah. This is more for me than the chosen, but luckily early on in my life, when I was able to develop a relationship with Jesus and just give him everything. I'd vowed that I would be his tool. Like whatever he wants me to do, I'd be his tool. And I just found that we live in a very dark world. We live in a very bleak time. I don't like to focus in on the darkness or the bleakness. I just acknowledge that it's there. And I've been on a quest to really bring light into the world. And I believe that God has given all of us talents and abilities and opportunities that the world needs now. And I know that there's a lot of people that will be, listening and watching this podcast that always just wanted to do something. It could be write a book. It could be, just make a statement on social media. It could be whatever. I would just encourage you all to just take time and ponder it and take action. Because when I read Matthew 5 and really looked at that we are the light of the world and what that actually means, the world needs more light, and that light comes from truth that also comes from not just preaching, because there's good things, there's things that are net positive that will impact the world in so many different ways. And I would just encourage you all to something's been nagging at you for a little bit, and it's time to create something, time to put it out there for the world. You might be just trying to do a journal for your kids before you pass. Great, take time. Turn the phone on. We got phones here. Record those stories. Record it for the generations. Let's do that. Let's put it out there. But I've been on a quest for that. It's just really, how do we amplify light? How do we actually create more light? And I just found that people are naturally attracted to goodness. They're naturally attracted to authenticity. And so that's what I just challenge everybody. If you get get that stirring in your soul, just go and do. I think that's what God wants us to do.
That's beautiful. Derral, consider me a newfound friend if I can help amplify your message as we get to know each other. I appreciate you very much. And thanks for being with me, Derral, on The Rundown with Ramon.